Good afternoon, folks. I'd like to welcome you to our new set of YouTube slides that is dedicated to the candidates of the CPA board examination. My name is Dean Joe-Santos Balagtas Bisquera. I used to be in your position when I was hoping to become a certified public accountant. And to be candid about it, I did not know how I ended up taking up accounting. Just to give you a little personal background there. My real ambition was to be an outstanding military officer, a five-star general, in order to compensate for my father, who was a master sergeant for a long, long time. He was in the Bataan war games in the Second World War, starting initially to be posted in uh, Lamon Bay in Quezon when they waited for the landing of the Japanese. But the Plan Orange number 5 of General MacArthur was designed to consolidate all the American and Philippine military forces in the Bataan Peninsula, including Corridor, where they will take a protracted stand in the hope that the United States, under President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, will send the reinforcements and fight the Japanese head-on here in the Philippines. Unfortunately, the United States at that time seemed to have its heart closer to the Ryupan campaign. As you know, most white Americans come from Europe, no? The English, the French, and they focus their firepower and support to the fight in Europe against Germany and Italy, and just took in stride that the Japanese have also invaded the bulk of the Asia Pacific rim. And so the Americans consolidated their last stand in Australia, where effectively the defeated MacArthur was told to withdraw. But after the Americans have seen that the war in Europe is turning already the tide against the Germans, the Americans started switching their emphasis in punishing Japan for bombing Pearl Harbor. And my father was right there in the Bataan fighting the protracted war of the Americans against the Japanese. And after the war, many of his fellow non-commissioned officers got promoted and finally became generals. I am not sure what my father wanted to do, but when everybody was trying to claim his promotion in Bataan, including my father did not do anything about it. So for a long, long time, he was saluting every officer that he meets, and I saw that as a little boy. And I used to join him in the armory when he was serving his duties. And so I had the opportunity to be playing around with 50 millimeter, mortars and machine guns and grand rifles and carbines and 45s. And even the 50 millimeter howitzers, And so to me, a very young age, about 8, 9, 10 years old, I had only one ambition to enter the military and become a five-star general to the Philippine Military Academy. I was so ready to really gear my resources, both mental and physical, to become a PMA cadet. I would have been in batch 68. But my father was kidding me when my grade in general math on first year high, and I was able to penetrate by luck the UST, they call it Charity High, Education High School, and even ended up as an honor student on the first grading period. Even when my grade in general mathematics was 78. So can you just imagine how high my grades are in the all other subjects. But when I went home to show him that there were only three of us out of the population of about 80 first years, he did not get excited about my being one of the three honor students, and I was in section A. He simply said, son, there's no chance for you to enter the PMA because PMA is heavily mathematics and it's like an engineering course. And so no matter how good you are in English, in history, in Filipino, in science, whatever, you'll never even go through the entrance examination, which is heavily math. And so I started switching my study period, my 1 hour study period in the morning per subject in high school, up to, I cut it down by about 15 to 30 minutes on the subjects I was good at, and started focusing on mathematics. I kept asking a lot of very crazy questions. Good, we had student teachers, and our math teachers were not as attractive. So my classmates did not bother to, flirt with them to ask them questions. So I had the opportunity to ask them, and my teachers in math, student teachers, were patient answering my basic questions. And so my 78, I think, went up to about 89. And nobody noticed that except my father was smiling because he saw how I was really putting all my efforts to enter the Philippine Military Academy. And I started enjoying algebra in second year, geometry, physics. I was never a poor student after my father told me I cannot enter the academy. But when I was about to enter to take the entrance exam for the PMA, and really was so determined, I was told by a doctor from the Viluna Medical Hospital not even to try the exams because my eyes had myopia of about 450. And they said, no matter how good I am, I can only try to be an exception with a maximum of 100 myopia. So after high school, I did not know where to go. I was very good in the academics. I graduated with honors, and but I did not know what course to take. And obviously, the second warlike course is law. To become a fighting lawyer in court. Away pa rin. But you don't go direct to the College of Law from high school, and so I ended up taking a course that I didn't fully understand what it is all about. My father and my mother enrolled me at UE because they were both working there, and asked me to major in accounting, and I said, "What is that all about?" And my father is a business administration graduate in management, and he said, I do not know. It's a difficult course, but it's high paying. And so why don't you take that? It is a very good preparation for you to go to law school. And I started laughing at accounting because I thought the mathematics that I was ready to do was the more advanced ones for the PMA. And I found out no matter how many digits there are in accounting, the mathematics involved is arithmetic. It's just you're dealing with so many numbers, so hundred thousands and millions. You have to add long running. And so I said, so the skill here is really to add so many numbers, unlike in real mathematics, like in algebra, in geometry, in physics. The numbers are, mathematics is complicated, but the number of population of numbers is not so much. Accounting is really just a proliferation of numbers, pages and pages of numbers. And so you just have to be, you just have to gain speed in addition. Not much of subtraction, not even division or multiplication. And so I said, also, this is the trick. So I started practicing on that. So every time I would watch the cars, the jeepneys, I would start adding the numbers on the plates. And the plates are, 3 digits, 4 digits, but if you look at 5 or 6 or 7 vehicles passing through, picking up the numbers and adding it mentally becomes a very exciting exercise. And that is how I started getting to like accounting. There was no accounting on first year, first semester. It was in the second semester. Then, because I knew accounting was not easy, I was very lucky. I was under a very hardworking professor and very good in teaching, Mr. Catalino. So I have not met him for quite some time. He's a little older than me, about 4 or 5 years. I hope he's still alive and strong. But I did enjoy accounting because of him. And on my preliminary examination, he gave a long problem, the usual trial balance. You're required to prepare the adjusting entries, adjusted trial balance, your income statement, and balance sheet. It was a long, it was I think 3 hour exam because accounting 1 and 2 were actually accounting 1 was really the tough one to eliminate those who could make it. And I had 2 classmates who were valedictorians. They were very aggressive. The more aggressive one is Ninita Cabrera Santos. She was valedictorian from Jose Abad Santos High School. And very sharp, very aggressive. The other one is attorney, now attorney and CPA also. What's his name? Crispin Lozano from is it Pansol? But in Laguna. They were both very aggressive, and Lozano was seated in front. Very rare to use him male students. But, he was valedictorian in high school, so he was also determined to be good. So while normally I would be the only male student in the first row, I was seated on the left. He was seated right there in the middle, and then Ninito Santos was in the second row. So all of the 3 of us were really showing interest. We were all honor students. And in the preliminary examination, they were so silent during the exam. But the following meeting, the teacher, Professor Catalino was ready to return the papers. He was very industrious. And Ninita stood up and said, "Sir, in behalf of most of my classmates here in our accounting class, may we ask that the examination in prelims be retaken." I don't know what's the exact word, but she wanted the exam to be cancelled for another exam because many would not make it. And there was a strong clamor. More than one half of the class did not make it. And the 2 of them, apparently were showing agitation because they also did not make well. But I think they were able to get about 80, 87, 86. Not bad. But, they were aiming for a high grade. So the vicinity of 80, no, they were not happy. So Mr. So was a little agitated. He said, why should we change the exam? That's a reasonable exam. And if you don't get it, that means you pass it. Too bad. No. So Ninita was very aggressive. She was arguing left and right and so on. And finally, Mr. So, you know, throughout the complaint, I said, even if I want to cancel that exam, I cannot because one of you almost got 100. They were all shocked. They were so silent. In fact, the only reason why is getting 98 is because he force balanced his work. It's balanced. And he looked at me and said, Bisquera, how did you ever balance your balance sheet? So I stood up because it's obvious I got the exam. He said almost 100. That's why he's not canceling it because of me. You know, all of my classmates looked at me and said, pambihira. And it was at that time, after the prelims when the midterm exam was about to start, the grades for the first semester already came out. And I was number one. 30,000 students of the College of Business of UE in Claro M. Recto. I was top scholar. I almost perfected my grades, almost flat one, except in Spanish and in English, where both professors did not refuse to give me a flat one. They said flat one is not part of their grading selection. My God, I could have perfected it. And so Mr. So asked me to stand up and say, how did you ever perfect the balance sheet? Sir, the title is balance sheet, not imbalance sheet. So, I got the total assets, debit side. And obviously, because it's balanced, I force it and put the balancing number in the income statement line, and it ties up with the income statement. The difference representing, of course, the debit and credit, or the income statement debit credit side, which represents the income. But my mistake was I did not validate the unadjusted trial balance, the problem. So apparently he missed it by 2,000 pesos. The debit and the credit side did not match by 2,000. But by force balancing the whole thing, pabalik, and force it to balance. So he said, you're just in accounting one, you already know how to doctor. Sabi sa akin, so no, because the title is balance sheet. I said, but the trial balance is not balanced. But, I never would assume that you will give a trial balance that is not balanced. It's a trial balance. Philosopher na ako nun eh. Oh, hindi pa ako, when I was not a lawyer, I was more philosopher. And so he said, sit down. Oh, so that's why I am deducting 2 points from him. 1 point in the additional entry that he made in the balance sheet, which he forced to become the income statement also. So he got 98. The highest grade after me was 87, which is Ninita Santos. So, these two, they became very close friends of mine. And because I did not show arrogance, I simply said, pasensya na kayo, nakachamba lang ako ng konti, pinwersa ko pa nga. So they became good friends of mine up to graduation. In fact, si Crispin Lozano became my fraternity brother. And up to now, I get in touch with him. But anyway, that is how I ended up becoming a certified public accountant. I was even very active in the campus, and there were instances when I was absent in my accounting classes. in advanced accounting, in financial accounting, and accounting for. And I had to do a catching up. And it's because only of my good mathematics and good grammar that I was able to maintain my grades. But of the record, I became summa cum laude with the cut-off average of 1.205 for to finish between Magna and Summa. And it was only my accounting grades that were pulling down my subjects because I was absent in many of my accounting subjects. My commercial law, which is what I will cover here, is all flat one. From obligations and contracts to negotiable instruments to corporation to insurance. My three subjects in taxation are all flat ones. And political science was all flat ones. And my Spanish were all 125s, that would have been all flat ones also. And all my other subjects was getting all flat ones. But in accounting, in financial accounting, I got a 2. The only 2 that I had in accounting, and that was my lowest grade in my undergraduate course. That is why when I went to review for the bar exam, for the CPA exams, I focused on theory of accounts and practical 1 because that was where financial accounting for my grade of 2 was. And I almost memorized like a law textbook, that very thin intermediate accounting by Simons and Karen. Even the footnotes. So that's why when I started teaching accounting at PSBA, after I passed the CPA exams, I can almost, recite the principles from cash. Even the problems, bank reconciliation, aging schedule, I knew it. Even 2 dates bank reconciliation that was given in practical auditing. So I consider myself a very good accountant. Even when I do not understand what exactly is the role of accounting, I just knew the mechanical aspect of accounting. And when I started working, I started realizing that being the best accountant is not the shortcut to becoming to move up to the management ladder. In fact, when you become so accounting, you probably will not have a chance to go up. You will just be a glorified chief accountant. Even vice president for finance will not be available for you if you're simply a debit credit professional. And it was when I went into the MBA school at UP where I graduated on top of my class as valedictorian and magna cum laude grade equivalent. That I started appreciating that accounting, no matter how good you are, is a marginal competitive advantage in management. You need to be well versed in all the balancing subjects, especially marketing. And when you're in finance, normally you do not appreciate marketing because finance is control, and you become strict with marketing, pricing, product, and reaching goals and so on. So you become an enemy of the marketing people. But I started appreciating that without marketing, you have no numbers to account for. If your sales is not coming in, your income statement will never be positive. No? And then they even overrun their expenses, and you're very strict with that. No? But when you look at their numbers in sales, there's no accounting solution to your sales organization not meeting its sales targets. Your role in accounting is simply to tell them they're screwing up on their sales target. How do you help them? And it was in the MBA program, plus I went into companies that are very good marketing organizations like Procter & Gamble, PMC. Also when I joined ESO, which became Petron, very heavy marketing. And then when I joined also the pharmaceutical industry in marketing, I started loving marketing because my extracurricular activities in college seemed to be more on selling yourself and selling things, your ideas. And I enjoyed it more. Anyway, what is our exercise? Medyo napahaba ng konting kwentuhan. But I remember when I took the CPA exams. Of course, I wanted to top. Because I come from a school na UE was the dominant accounting school din. Parating kontrolado na namin ng top 10 for 20 years. And since I was graduating on top of my class as summa cum laude gold medal, obviously everybody was expecting me to top the CPA exams. I really set aside all of my activities. I was focused only during the review on studying everything to top the CPA exams. And I had very good reviewers in practical accounting and theory of accounts. I had the pillar of accounting theory during the time. Dean Jesus Casino was our vice dean in UE. And then in auditing, I had a retired Colonel Fernando Villegas. He never wanted any concept of tips from the CPA. He really was just teaching what is practical auditing. I learned auditing with him. Bikahon. And then I have also other good professors. These were the two that I remember in the CPA review. And I guess it was an accident that I became a good accountant. But when I took the CPA, why I wanted to be a CPA top-notcher. If I don't top the CPA, for as long as I top commercial law. Di bali kung hindi ako mag-top sa ibang subject at ready naman ako. Pero kung sakaling hindi mag-top, yung man lang commercial law, dapat mataas ang grade ko. I think I got a very good grade. Paborito kong subject talaga yung law. And I am one of the CPAs during my time when I was in the corporate management world. And being the head of finance, you will be encountering, a lot of finance problems that have very heavy legal components. And, my talent in law as an undergraduate was helping me out. So there was one time on my second company, I was already the assistant vice president and controller. Later on became promoted as vice president. And there were issues that were involving, issues in finance that have legal bottlenecks. I kept arguing. I had a hypothesis on the legal approach to solve the accounting and finance problem. And, the lawyers, whenever they look at the CPAs, they think we are inferior to them because when it comes to law, they are lawyers, attorneys. They pass the bar. The CPA, they don't know how tough the law subjects in accounting also are. Because in the field of, we talk about obligations and contract, that is civil law. And the only aspect of civil law that you don't take up in accounting is the family code of persons and family relations. But obligations and contracts is very heavy. All the elements of obligations, all the elements of contracts, even void contracts, rescissible, all of this, we have mastered that. And then, of course, the issue of the laws on banking, especially the negotiable instruments law, and everything that has something to do with checks. Then, of course, collections, receivables. Then, of course, corporation law, and even insurance. That's why there was one point when I was trying to say that the legal approach should be driven by certain approaches. And in a management meeting, I was trying to explain. Obviously, I must have been so excited that I must have sounded like very authoritative. And the lawyers and I were exchanging notes in front of the big senior management team. And one of the senior lawyers got a little irked with my aggressiveness, probably abrasiveness. And so when he was cornered in some legal issue, he reached his boiling point and looked at me straight in the eye and said, I was making a proposal and said, why? Are you a lawyer? He said, in front of the entire management. And how can you even respond? It is no longer an issue. It is no longer a subject matter. Pinag-aawayan eh. Abogado siya, ikaw hindi abogado. So siya lang ang may karapatan na magsalta. And, pangit naman sabihin na bobo kang abogado eh. Ako hindi nga abogado pero naintindihan ko. Baka hindi mo alam. Flat wala ko lahat sa loob. Hindi mo masabi. So I kept quiet. Natapos yung argument sa tawag natin doon eh. Argumentatum ab hominem. Emotions rather than the issues. But let me close that subject matter. 25 years after that, I was already a member of the Philippine Bar and I have a case. Yung kaso ko talagang lawyering. Kasi reckless imprudence eh. Patay yung 3 pasahero dyan sa C5. Kalayaan. I was the counsel, private prosecuting attorney. Nakabihis na ako ng American. And so, mahaba yung alam niya man, ang reckless imprudence belongs to the Metropolitan Trial Court. Sin Makati. So, ang haba nung listahan, marami, bouncing check, stapa, reckless imprudence. So, when the roll call was made, my case was called People of the Philippines versus Osado. And I stood up and say, Attorney Joe-Santos Bisquera as private prosecuting attorney under the guidance and supervision of the public prosecutor. And when before I stood up, I noticed this lawyer that we were together in that company. He was apparently also practicing. I saw him coming inside the courtroom. And he caught me when I said, Attorney Joe. And he was looking at me and I was also looking at him. And he probably was a little confused na I identified myself as attorney. Nasabihin nga niya, why are you a lawyer? So, ngayon, pwede ko lang sabihin, pare, attorney. Hindi mo na ako pwedeng pagsabihan. During the break time, sabi niya, member ka na pala ng Philippine Bar. Umabol ako eh. Sabi ko, nakakaingit naman kayo, attorney. At least, may title din naman ako, attorney, hindi lang CPA. I wanted to say, one of these days, pare, baka magkasagupa tayo ngayon. Sabihan mo na ba ako na, are you a lawyer? Because now I will show you what a lawyer I am. Lamang pa ako sa'yo, CPA pa ako. Anyway, napahaba yung kwento natin. And so, my ambition din was, kung hindi ako mag-top sa CPA, ako naman mag-top man lang sa commercial law. So, after a long time, senior citizen na tayo, matagal akong hindi na na-involve sa accounting. Kahit sa University of Manila, where I'm the Dean of the College of Law. I even also became the Dean of the College of Business. Under me was accounting. But there were people doing the detailed jobs. I was not involved until now. There were personal reasons why I ended up helping review again the CPA exams. I visited CPAR and I met my former, yung most senior accounting professor sa PSBA, si Attorney Conrad Valix, another CPA lawyer. We had a very long kwentuhan. Sabi ko, tulungan mo naman ako. Meron akong candidate sa CPA. And so that's the reason why I'm here. Because tinignan ko yung course syllabus na accounting. Medyo mahirap na rin talaga. Siyempre, matagal na akong hindi nag-aaral na accounting. Tinignan ko yung financial accounting. Accounting na lang. Mahirap-hirap na. Yung mga traditional, reconciliation, aging of account schedule, property, plant and equipment, lahat yun. Pero syempre, nandiyan na yung book value per share, diluted earnings per share, na when we were in studying accounting, walang emphasis doon. Sa MBA ko na encounter yun sa finance. So, pero yun, nandun na sa CPA. Tapos management services, tinignan areas na medyo mahihirap na konti in actual business practice. Nandun na rin. Yung pinakamadali sa akin dun, yung gross profit variation analysis, trabaho ko yun sa Petron nun, sa ESO. Tapos, andyan na yung nandyan na yung break-even analysis, cost volume profit analysis. Yung break-even, nadali pa ako sa MBA. Sa accounting kasi, linear yung revenue and cost line. Pagpasok namin sa UP, hindi rin pala linear yung revenue and cost line. Revenue kasi may diminishing marginal productivity, may curve na ganun. Tapos yung cost line naman, may diminishing margin, nakikita. So, may break-even do sa lower part, may break-even do sa higher part. Kami mga CPAs na-ambush dun. Pinagtawa na kami ng economists at mga engineers. Kasi our knowledge about revenue and cost line were linear. But when you look at it really, strictly speaking, in the real world, if you expand it, kasi ang accountant, maikli lang ang ang period 1 year, 2 year, 3 year cycle. So, linear yung niya. Kasi yung curve na ganun, dapat mas malaking period. So, yun. May dalawa palang break-even. Hindi naman binibigay sa CPA. Pero sa MBA, kitang-kita mo yun, dalawang break-even points. Okay. So, my role here now is to take a look at mahaba itong kwentuhan natin. Dahil ito, I would just like to run through the core syllabus in business law. Tawag nila dito law on business transactions. Tawagin na lang natin business law. Pareho rin yun. And out of that, what I did is with the long core syllabus, I started dividing them into modules na magkakamag-anak. And so that long listing na maraming mga special laws, nakakatakot. Mas mahaba pa yung coverage ng commercial law ng CPA versus yung versus yung commercial law sa bar examination. Dito may portion ng civil law, which is yung obligations and contracts, and then yung bulk ng commercial law. Sa in the bar examination, the commercial law are really coming in only in 5 major groupings. Sa commercial law, sa bar examination, unang pumapasok doon yung obligations and contracts, civil law. So, ang unang ang mga subjects doon, pabaligtad, is intellectual property. Pasok yun. Pasok din dito sa CPA. Tapos, syempre, ang bulk, kahit yung CPA, is corporation law. And then, of course, pumapasok yung banking. Banking. Yun ang tatlong nakita kong malalaki dito. Yung banking laws. Pagkatapos, corporation law. And then, intellectual property. Pero nasa ibabaw nun, yung obligations and contracts. Banking, corporation law, intellectual properties, and then other special laws. So, yun ang lumalabas na 5 dito sa CPA. Na sa bar examination naman, 5 din, pero walang civil law. Ibang subject ang civil law sa bar exams. So we will go to this, itong first pass natin. We will try to divide the long list of course syllabus sa commercial law or business law sa CPA so that we can group them. And then so once we group natin, we will have within each module, 4 yung modules ko. Yung module ko, simula obligations and contracts. Pagkatapos papasok ang banking. Pagkatapos corporation. And then may bonus, yung government procurement, other laws. But you will notice the other laws have been integrated into the three modules of obligations and contracts, banking, and then corporation law. So without much ado, let us now go to the details. So the first module is in business law. And the business law can be divided into four major sections. No? See whether we can identify this now. Unang-una, obligations and contracts. No, is the major component. No? And then we will have banking. No? After banking, we go to corporation and business organization. And finally, we go to other business laws. Now, if we go now to obligations and contracts, what are the major topics that fall under obligations and contracts? So we'll go into this. Tingnan natin. In obligations and contracts, we will split up the discussion of obligations and contracts. But a special contract that belongs to this is sales. And then you have three special laws that somehow belong to obligations and contracts. Yung consumer protection, yung competition law, unfriendly competition, and then yung data privacy. These are essentially obligations that are special but somehow involving obligations in relation to conduct of business. Now, the second module that we will encounter after obligations is banking. Dito sa banking, I have also grouped them into four. The first four would be when you go to open an account, you have your secrecy or bank deposits law, and then the anti-money laundering law. And then you have the discussion of checks. Kung nagkaloko-loko yung banko, you have your deposit, your Philippine deposit insurance, and then dito very extensive yung gamit na electronic commerce or e-commerce. So those are the two major components of banking. Yung third component is siyempre, if you already open an account here, and then you're using your checking account, pwede ka na umutang sa banko. So here we will discuss credit, pledge, and mortgage, and yung truth in lending. Kasi siyempre, pag umuutang ka, dapat may interest. No? So we'll talk about the anti-usury law and the maximum that you can, that can be legally, imposable in the area of interest. So yung truth in lending would be discussed. And finally, yung insurance. Technically, insurance is a field of finance and banking. Kasi dito, ang ginagawa, mahuhulik na insurance company, nag-iipon siya ng pera, o ini-invest niya, tinitingnan niya na yung perang na-iipon niya, out of the premiums that is collected, also the earnings of the premium, will be sufficient to pay yung insurance proceeds. Non-life insurance like naka-fire insurance, sunugan, may pera ba siya? Hindi naman mauubos yung kanyang pinulekta sa premiums. Merong marine insurance, barko, naka-insure, lububog, may kasama pang kargamento, babayaran niya yun. Sufficient ba yung makukolekta niya? Motor vehicle liability, ini-insure niya yung mga kotse, pwedeng manakarna, pwedeng mabangga, makasakit, sufficient ba yung babayaran niya at the premium si collects. And finally, sabi niya, pag namatay ka, babayaran ko yung mga deposit, yung mga beneficiaries mo. Again, hindi ba sabay-sabay mamamatay yun? Kasi pag sabay-sabay, mauubusan siya ng pera. So by the use of probability in actuarial science, binabantayan niya yung occurrence ng mga events, fortuitous events affecting life insurance, fire, marine, and motor vehicle. So, ang philosophy niya doon is, sana, yung estimated niya na probability ng mangyayari yung mga fortuitous event na kailangan bayaran, yung estimate niyang yun, gagawa siya ng total kailangan niyang premium, i-divide niya yun dun sa mga insured para makagawa siya ng schedule of their premium payments. Pag nagkamali siya ng computation doon, kulang yung premium na siningil niya, malulugi yung, yung insurance niya. Paano pa yung hanap buhay niya? So this one we will discuss under the concept of bonding. Ito yung unang-una natin pag-uusapan mamaya. Kasi solid na ito. And my YouTube uploads affecting law. Nakakagulat. Ito ang pinakamaraming, I think 3 years pa lang ito, maximum 5 years. 35,000 ang viewer nito. And I have a suspicion, yung mga feedback na nakukuha ko, yung mga CPA candidates na nagmamadali na, sinisilip yung insurance. Kaya I'm developing this one para yung last minute nyo, wala na kayong oras, nag-focus na kayo sa accounting. No? Yun naman lang law, mapanood nyo siguro 1 or 2 days, covered yung buong coverage kung matatapos ko. But definitely, covered na ngayon yung insurance, mamaya baka makover na rin ng corporation. Yun malalaki, insurance, corporation, tapos susunod natin to, kung tatlong ito, banking. And that would already be substantial coverage of your CPA exams. So, meron pa tayong idadamay ng mga maliit na batas. Okay. Now, in corporation and business organization, siyempre, persado tayo to touch first on partnerships. Idadamay na rin natin cooperatives. And then, a singular module is corporation up to financial rehabilitation, kung malulugi. And then we go into intellectual properties, discussion on trademark, copyright, saka patents. Kasi ginagamit ng insurance company yan. Yan yung tinatawag natin, di ba, na intangible properties. And finally, in the matter of corporation law, siyempre we deal with employees. So meron din labor law and social security. Dito, ang kasama rito sa labor law, labor standards, minimum wage law, yung bayad ng overtime, yung right differential, saka very obvious na kailangan, alam mo, yung employer-employee relationship in order for you to understand yung concept ng illegal dismissal because that would have a financial implication because you have to pay 1 month for every year of service at reinstatement pa with back wages kapag illegal dismissal. So even an accountant should understand that. Ako, merong field ng labor law. I'm very effective as a financiman. Yung second aspect, which is labor relations, kaya pumapasok na dyan yung collective bargaining agreement, strike. Dito, apparently hindi kasama sa CPA. Pero yan, kailangan mo ng knowledge sa pati projections mo. Kaya ako, as a financeman, I have had occasion na ako yung chairman ng management panel sa CBA. Instead na, siyempre, mas mahirap ako kalaban kasi alam kong pera. But in reality, I converted that to help our employees para sabihin kong, sobra naman yung hinihingi nyo, wala naman kasi. Sige, alalayan ko kayo kung kaya ng kumpanya. And normally, pag sinabing kaya ng kumpanya, sinasagad ko na for them to also be able to get the maximum. That's why in one company, I was chairman of the management committee. Sabi ng mga mas junior managers na kasama ko sa panel. Si Dean JSB naman, parang kampi pa sa labor. Halos sinasabi na sa kanila, ito na lang hingin nyo, kaya yan. Malaki pa rin yung pinasabi niya. Kaya na-intriga ako. Huwag na lang akong sumama rin sa management panel, total member ako ng board of, nasa board of trustees, board of directors ako. Nasa management committee pa. Doon na lang ako daw mangharang. Paano maharang? Hindi naman ako nangaharang sa member of the management panel. Tinutulungan ko pa ngayon yun na, hinihingi nyo langit, ibaba nyo ng konti sa sa purgatorio at baka yan kayang ibigay. Siyempre, pagka pinaringgan mo ng ganun, they understand that you're trying to help them na maging reasonable yung kanilang demand para maibigay at malaki pa rin. So, and then finally, yung last module, bumalik tayo. Yung other business law, yung government procurement lang nagbago dito. So, tingnan natin itong meron dito isa. Ito, yung PDIC, kaya yung electronic commerce. Ito yung special dito. Ito yung lending, special ito, yung secrecy, and then yung So this becomes now effectively our cross-section of the coverage of the business law in the CPA examination. Uh, we have divided them into four modules. Balikan natin, sabi natin, sa daan natin, yung business law coverage, will cover na yung obligations and contracts, banking, corporation, and so with this, that will allow you now therefore to compress, and I will give you an appreciation of these laws. And we will try to see what are the possible questions that can be asked as we go through. So unahin muna natin yan. Those of you who have been watching my YouTube uploads tawag dito sa YouTube for the lawyers, baka nagsawa na kayo dito kaya hindi ko na nilalagay sa harapan. I come from three major interests for purposes of you appreciating. Sino dito si Bisquera kung may tutulong na ito sa akin. Well, in the field of academics, I have a Bachelor of Laws in Laundering plus valedictorian sa UE College of Law. And since I graduated also with my accounting and CPA from UE, I received in 1975 the UE, during the UE 75th anniversary, an outstanding alumni. And in my Bachelor of Business Administration, which led to my being a CPA, I graduated summa cum laude. I was very active in the campus as a campus leader. Naimbita pa nga ako, naimbita pa nga ako sa China noon ni Mao Zedong. Buti na lang hindi ako tumuloy. Kung hindi, hindi ko alam ngayon kung saan ako papapil. So I was there. I was a citizenship awardee for academic excellence and student leadership. I have my Master of Business Administration from the University of the Philippines when I was an SO scholar and also a UP scholar, graduating as the class valedictorian with a magna cum laude average grade. I was inducted into the honor societies of Pi Kappa Pi and Pi Gamma Mu UP Believe. My high school was from the UST Education High School. I graduated second honorable mention, but I was very lucky. They finally recognized me at the level of the alumni, and I received the UST Outstanding Alumni Award. And from our Education High School also, the Outstanding Alumni Award to students. And so, okay na naman yung aking academics, no? And wala na akong mareklamo. I think I worked hard to become a good student. I spent about 40 years in the corporate management world, no? With some multinational and local companies that are high-sounding. In Fuji Xerox, I was executive vice president and chief finance officer. We were in the agricultural chemical field also. Yung Fuji Xerox, yung Xerox machines. So we were in the electronics printing business. But I was also in the agricultural chemical field when I was hindi na ilagay dito. And I also got involved with Furadan. When we were selling, ikot ako sa agriculture lalo sa Mindanao. Because we were selling the agricultural chemicals for the banana industry, Stanfilco and Dole. I also came from the pharmaceutical industry, whereas I was director for finance and administration of SmithKline and French Overseas Company that got merged with GlaxoSmithKline. Pero dito, masyado yatang madali na raw yung trabaho ko sa finance. Panay ang banat sa marketing. Hinati yung marketing into two. Yung sales force tsaka yung marketing and planning and development. I became also the director of market planning and development. I came from the electronics and semiconductor industry for 13 years sa Motorola Philippines. And I came from petroleum, yung talagang first major job ko. I joined ESO, which is the subsidiary of Standard Oil of New Jersey, and which was acquired later on by Philippine National Oil Company. It is now Petron. And in Petron, I started there as a systems, initially as a financial analyst. Kaya yung coverage ng management services, lahat yun natrabaho ko as a financial analyst. But I moved to computers and non-computer systems as administrative systems and procedures, initially analyst and supervisor. I was also the refinery supervisor, refinery accounting supervisor. I was one of the very few got my actual exposure in running the functions of the refinery. Naintindihan ko ang refinery. And finally, I became the overall head of the inventory and bulk plants of all the of all of ESO and Petron in the Philippines, including Pandacan Terminal, Poro Point in La Union, and Mandaue. And in my academic field, I was also very heavy in both teaching of MBA and accounting in the University of the Philippines, the La Salle University Graduate School. Hindi ko na nilagay dito. I was an accounting professor in PSBA. Because I was department chairman and professor of financial management and management accounting in these two leading schools, UP and De La Salle. And I got my award as outstanding MBA professor. At a very old age of 40 years old, I went back to law school and became a lawyer after 5-6 years working student. And I am today the Vice President for Legal Affairs and the Dean of the College of Law, and also one time the Dean of the College of Business Administration and Criminology of the University of Manila, where I also held some minor shares. I was nominated twice in 2012 and 2016, Associate Justice Supreme Court of the Philippines. Wala akong kapit, pero umabot ako sa finish line. And I felt that considering I became a lawyer at the age of 47, umabot pa ako sa finish line na nominee sa Supreme Court. Na hindi lang naman abilidad ang pinag-uusapan doon. Kung ikaw ay bibigyan ng blessing ng Malacanang, wala akong. And in there was one time I also did work with the University of Perpetual Health, both in Las Piñas and in Binyan. I was Vice President for Legal Affairs and at the same time the Dean of the College of Law of both Binyan and Las Piñas. Nakalagay dito Secretary General. Yung Secretary General ng Philippine Association of Law Schools. I've been a bar reviewer and nailagay na ito. Nag-overlap dun. Nag-overlap dun. Hindi dapat napunta ito. So, let me close this particular session with you. And probably hope that we can start with initially with insurance. So, let us close the deal now. And you can now go into the later on sa YouTube. Give me 1 hour. Papasok tayo sa YouTube at mag-re-record tayo na in the field of finance, banking. I-discuss natin ang insurance for the CPA exams. Marami pong salamat and I'm very happy to be present in the preparation of our young students to become CPAs.